It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 24th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, high 48. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 38. And then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high 54. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 30 clear in Muncie up in Rockland. It's 33 and clear in Spring Lake over in New Jersey. And it's 32 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
So who is at fault for the LaGuardia crash? Talks to end the war in Iran could get underway this week. We're creeping closer to an LIRR strike. The Archbishop speaking out about his sit-down with Mayor Mamdani. And where would you go if you were kicked out of your apartment building? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy denying a rumor that there was just one air traffic controller on duty on Sunday night during that deadly crash at LaGuardia Airport, saying that that's not accurate. The two pilots killed when a Jazz aviation jet operated by Air Canada crashed into a fire truck right after landing.
It has been over 34 years since we had an incident with a death at the airport.
That's the Port Authority Executive Director Catherine Garcia, who also said at a Monday afternoon press conference that 43 people, including 2 firefighters, rushed to the hospital. She noted that one of those firefighters had already been released. Another was held overnight for observation. FAA says it was raining and foggy at the time. It was. Governor Hochul, Mayor Mamdani offering condolences to the pilots' families, with Mamdani praising passengers on board that plane for maintaining their composure while opening the exit doors right after the crash.
And reacted not only with composure, but by extending a hand to the person next to them. Passengers who opened the emergency door and helped one another off the plane. People who kept one another calm.
No doubt you have seen video of that crash. Man, it's intense. And it's a wonder that those firefighters on the truck were able to survive. I mean, thank God that they did. Governor Hochul had this message for LaGuardia and Port Authority workers.
We are very cognizant of the traumatizing impact this has on you and indeed your own families. So I want to first convey my gratitude to all of you.
And then we're hearing from passengers and people who were waiting for passengers yesterday. Air Canada passenger Rebecca LaCory, she was aboard the plane that collided with the truck on Sunday night. She says she and several others she saw were, she wasn't badly injured, but she saw that others were badly injured, and then they realized they had to figure out a way to get off the plane.
It just the plane jolted. So we opened the exit door and there was no slide for us. A lot of people slid off of the wing of the plane getting out.
Yeah, so you saw the plane was up in the air, so they slid off the plane, but there was still, a good gap between the wing and getting to the ground. She told News 12 that the whole thing was very, very, very intense. Well, that's not surprising.
I'm just happy to be alive. I'm thankful that I get to kiss my sons this morning before they go to school. Yep. I would have never pictured a 1-hour flight that I've done countless times ending like this. So
Sarah Northrup, she was one of those people who was actually going to go and see if her daughter was okay. In fact, so what happened was she was coming from Connecticut, and she got a call from her daughter saying she was on that plane, the very plane that had crashed into the truck.
Mom, the plane crashed, and I just couldn't believe that the plane crashed.
So her daughter was taken to a nearby hospital where she was examined and released. She said, of course, she was incredibly anxious to see her daughter once she had realized what had taken place, and she's thankful that her daughter was not hurt.
When I get her in my arms, I'll be a much happier mom. I jumped out of my bed in Connecticut, all the way up in Beacon Falls, way by Waterbury, and I was here in an hour.
Yeah, I bet. The shutdown of LaGuardia following that crash had caused just this ripple effect all day yesterday, as travelers like this woman had to be rescheduled to fly out of either other airports or wait for LaGuardia to reopen.
I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it to Nashville, even if I flew out of one of those airports with enough time to still make the gig that we have. So I would rebook to a JFK or Newark situation, but I don't know.
Yeah, so this is on top, of course, the delays due to the TSA agent shortages, due to the partial government shutdown. On top of that, yesterday, Newark issued 2 separate ground stops, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That led to a backup there as well. So it was just a mess no matter where you went yesterday.
We came in early because we knew there was some kind of lines and stuff. So we showed up like an hour early. And then so far, we're good. No delays yet. So we are hoping it goes like that.
The NTSB at the site, they got there about 3:30 in the morning on Sunday, but they had the same issue that everybody else is having, the TSA thing, trying to get people from one place to another through those TSA lines. So not everybody was in place as quickly as they normally are. Here's the NTSB chair, Jennifer Homendy.
Our air traffic control specialist, who was in line with TSA for 3 hours until we called in Houston to beg to see if we can get her through so we can get her here.
Crazy, right? Homendy says the cockpit and flight data recorder have been recovered, being analyzed. She says all parts of the airport operation at the time of the collision will be reviewed now.
Some are still en route, which means that we have not had a full day of investigation here today.
So today will be the first day.
The Port Authority and the emergency responders cut a hole on the roof of the aircraft, dropped down, and was able to get the CVR and FDR for us.
So they're trying to figure this out. This is what they're going to look at. Investigators are examining whether chronic air traffic controller shortages and fatigue contributed to the error that took place at the time of the collision. Controllers were managing a separate emergency. That was what the fire truck was responding to, involving a United Airlines flight that had reported a sickening odor on board. So the fire truck involved in the crash was responding to that, to the United Airlines flight. The accident occurred late at night. It was 11:40 p.m. during a period of heavy rain in the mist. I can tell you I was out just an hour or two later. The mist was bad, so there was reduced visibility to approximately about 3 miles at that point. So all that will to be taken into consideration, along with that moment that likely you've heard. We played it here early yesterday morning of the air traffic controller talking to a fellow air traffic controller after the accident took place, almost assigning blame to himself.
That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my stuff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier, and I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
Yeah, so all that will be taken into consideration as they try to figure out exactly who and what is at fault for that accident that took place yesterday. WABC News Time 5:09. When we were reaching out to the NTSB for more information yesterday, they were telling us that they were responding to another call. This one in Boynton Beach, Florida. 2 people dead in a helicopter crash there. The chopper actually crashed through the roof of a Boynton Beach warehouse. This was yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, no smoke, no flame, no fire, not much fuel spill.
Yes, so that's a fire rescue battalion chief who arrived at the scene, the FAA. NTSB now there as well as they figure out why this chopper fell through this vacant, thankfully it was vacant, warehouse.
I don't know if they were trying to land or not. That's just where they ended up, was on one of the roofs and went through. It's a lightweight truss roof, so it actually crashed through it.
Yeah, so NTSB, FAA at the scene there trying to figure out exactly what took place. Both people on board that helicopter were killed. 5:10. President Trump says the U.S. has been in good discussions with Iran. With the war in its 4th week now, the president put strikes against Iranian power plants on hold. Remember, he said he was going to do that if Iran didn't open the Strait of Hormuz to shipping. To see, he says, if a broader agreement can be reached. And we're being told that these are secondary discussions. It's not one-on-one with Iran. It's through other countries. And that these discussions will continue through this week to try to end the conflict.
We've had very good discussions, very, very good discussions. And you have to understand, I know my whole life has been a negotiation, but with Iran, we've been negotiating for a long time. And this time, they mean business.
So the president says he's ready to give the talks at least 5 days. He says the success of Operation Epic Fury is the reason that Iran is coming to the bargaining table and that they want to make peace.
It's only because of the great job that our military did is the reason they mean business. They want to settle, and we're going to get it done, I hope.
And the issue the president says is that they just want to make sure that Iran can never have access to a nuclear weapon. And he thinks they've done that at this point.
No matter what, we'll ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. They would have had one if we allowed the Obama deal to stand.
The president says Iran's Navy, Air Force potential nuclear capabilities have been eliminated. Now, Tehran overnight and yesterday, they were denying that there were any talks with the U.S. taking place. And Iran's parliamentary speaker actually came out and said such claims are completely fake news. He says they're not talking with the U.S. And he says that the president is using these talks, he says, that are fake to manipulate financial and oil markets, which did do very well yesterday. They bounced back in a big way. So Iran saying no talks going on at all. The U.S. saying there are countries who are playing the middlemen who are saying, yes, no, the two sides are talking. We are the middlemen. A lot of these Arab nations are playing middlemen in these conversations between Iran and the U.S. So it has been quiet from what we can tell. No reports of anything going on in Tehran today. The Israelis continue, though, to bomb parts of southern Lebanon as they go after Hezbollah militants there. 5:13. ICE agents arrived at the nation's airports yesterday as travel issues grow because of the TSA worker shortage. This traveler in Los Angeles, he supports the move. He was happy to see those ICE agents there.
ICE needs to come in to help to make things smoother so we're not standing around and missing flights and missing work and missing family. Great.
President Trump says ICE is being sent in to help TSA agents who've been working without pay during the partial government shutdown. It comes as at the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airports, one of the biggest in the nation. They have told travelers there to arrive at least 4 hours early to make sure you can get through the line. 4 hours. That's nuts.
It's unfortunate that the political games have gotten to the point that the American traveler is inconvenienced this way just because of political posturing by both sides.
You're right about that.
It's overuse of power. However, we've seen that pattern already. So I'm just hoping that things take a turn for a lot of reasons.
That traveler worried about the ICE agents being there.
I'm concerned because of the delays that I'm pretty sure it will cause. I would imagine that if they did come, they're probably going to create delays in lines, delays in boarding, probably random checks.
TSA agents have been calling out sick, in some cases quitting their jobs altogether as the shutdown drags on. Now remember, it's been really a month since they've gotten a paycheck. The one they got 4 weeks ago was just 30% of their pay. The most recent check they got was Zippo, and there's no sign of this partial government shutdown ending anytime soon. 5:14, let's talk about that. President Trump is telling Republicans funding for the Department of Homeland Security should be tied to the Save America Act. He called Democrats disgraceful for allowing the chaos at the airports.
The Democrats are fully to blame with the struggle of the great American public is going through at the airports. They're going through a big struggle right now, and we just put ICE in charge, and they're helping.
The president suggesting strongly to Republicans not to make any deal to end the shutdown or anything else unless it includes the voter ID bill that the president's been pushing for weeks now.
We will also bring out, if we don't have enough, we will bring out the National Guard in where we need it to help out at the airports. But we're not going to let this happen. It's extortion by the Democrats. They're holding up money that's already been approved. Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID. And you have to be a citizen to vote. You have to show citizenship to vote. Very easy to do.
And the president warning yesterday, Congress, he said, don't worry about the upcoming Easter break. Don't go on it unless this partial government shutdown is over. In a moment, we'll follow the president as he made his way through Graceland yesterday. Had some interesting things to say about Elvis. We'll do that in a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start out here in Portland. The Nets lost handily to the Trailblazers. Final score 134-99. They've lost 8 straight and 18 of their last 20. Brooklyn is a game behind Indiana and a half game behind Washington for the best draft lottery odds. Danny Wolf, Drake Powell, Terrence Mann, and Noah Clowney did not play for the Nets, and Michael Porter Jr. missed his 7th straight game. Up next for Brooklyn, they'll be at Golden State to face the Warriors tomorrow. The Knicks, they're back at it tonight at home at the Garden. They'll welcome in the New Orleans Pelicans for a 7:30 p.m. start. Head to the ice at the Garden. The Rangers fell 2-1 to the Ottawa Senators. They had just 9 shots on goal, matching a franchise worst and the fewest in a game by any NHL team since 2003. They lost for a 25th time in 34 home games this season. One bright spot, Mika Zibanejad skated in his 1,000th regular season game, his 719th with the Rangers, after playing his first 281 with Ottawa. The forward was honored in a pre-game ceremony. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit the Maple Leafs in Toronto tomorrow night. Tonight on the ice, the Islanders, they're back at it in Elmont. They'll welcome in the Chicago Blackhawks at 7. And at 8 p.m., the Devils will be out in Dallas against the Stars. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Olive on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 519. Mark Wayne Mullins is now the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
The ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination of Mark Wayne Mullin of Oklahoma to be Secretary of Homeland Security is confirmed.
The Senate voted yesterday to confirm the Oklahoma Republican senator to replace Kristi Noem, who was let go by the president earlier this month and appointed to special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. The Democratic senators John Fetterman, Martin Heinrich, they confirmed Mullins' confirmation yesterday, part of the crew giving him the thumbs up. President Trump, he was in Memphis yesterday talking about reducing crime across the country.
Here in Memphis, we've achieved one of the largest, fastest declines in violent crime ever recorded. So that's something, right? Ever recorded.
The president was in Tennessee to take part in a roundtable discussion to discuss the success of what's called the Memphis Safe Task Force, the initiative that was launched back in September aimed at reducing violent crime through coordination between local, state, and federal agencies.
We brought together 22 federal agencies, state and local police, and 1,500 members of the incredible National Guard to smash the grip of the violent criminals in this iconic American city.
The president says the operation's success means Memphis can no longer be called the murder capital of the U.S. And while he was in Memphis, he did what a lot of people do when they go to Memphis. He toured Graceland, of course, the former home of Elvis Presley, telling reporters yesterday that he's always been a big Elvis fan.
I've never been here, no. I'm a big fan of Elvis. Who isn't, right? But I think he's great. I think his music is incredible.
The president says he regrets that he never got a chance to meet Elvis.
You know, they all say, did you know Elvis? So I knew Frank Sinatra. I knew most of them. Unfortunately, I never met Elvis, and that would be one I would have liked a lot. But I do like his music, I will say. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a fun tour if you've never done it. The jury considering a lawsuit against 2 social media companies is deliberating now for an 8th day, but they're having a trouble time reaching a verdict in what is a huge case being watched really all around the globe.
The jury says the deadlock involves one defendant. The only defendants in the trial are Google, which owns YouTube, and Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook. Yesterday, the judge told the jury to keep working. On Friday, the jury said it had moved past the liability phase and was now considering financial damages. A young woman who's listed as KGM is suing the massive companies. She claims Instagram and YouTube got her addicted to social media before she turned 10. The companies deny that allegation. Before the trial, TikTok and Snap settled out of court with the woman. I'm Mark Mayfield.
522, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments yesterday in the case about whether states may count mail-in ballots received after Election Day. The case comes out of Mississippi, where Solicitor General Scott Stewart defended a state law that allows a 5-day grace period for receiving mail-in ballots as it faces a challenge from the Republican National Committee.
States have allowed that for over a century.
Congress has respected it. No one challenged it until now.
All 50 states require mail-in ballots to be postmarked by Election Day, but 14 states have grace periods where ballots that are submitted by Election Day can be counted if they arrive late. Now, court observers say the conservative justice seemed skeptical yesterday of the state's argument to allow it. The Supreme Court expected to decide on the case by the end of June. And there's also now a push both at the federal and state level to overturn a landmark Supreme Court ruling mandating the education of all kids no matter their immigration status.
The Supreme Court basically said there's a important right to education and you can't exclude people on the basis of their immigration status.
Josh Blakeman at the South Texas College of Law says the ruling was just as controversial in the 1980s as it is now.
5-4 ruling, but it sort of stood for, almost 4 decades.
Yeah, so the majority wrote that denying illegal immigrant children a free education would create, they say, a subclass of illiterates that would add to the costs of unemployment, welfare, and crime across the country. The White House grounds are now home to a 13-foot statue of Christopher Columbus.
The statue is a replica. One toppled in Baltimore during racial justice protests in 2020, but it can now be seen outside of the Eisenhower Executive Office building after it was installed over the weekend. The Conference of Presidents of Major Italian-American Organizations published a letter from President Trump where he praised the group for its incredible generosity in bringing the statue to Washington. The effort also comes as the Trump administration seeks to reinstall statues that were removed by protesters. I'm Mark Mayfield.
524, do you remember when all we were talking about was the search for Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy, the 84-year-old? Well, she's hoping that people haven't forgot about the case and are still looking for clues. More from correspondent Liz Croyd.
7 weeks now since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, Savannah and her family pleading for renewed attention to their mom's case, saying in a new statement to their Tucson neighbors, someone knows something. It's possible a member of this community has information that they do not even realize is significant.
So far, no clear suspects nor any strong leads, which is kind of amazing, right, considering how many people are working on this case. Nancy Guthrie, if you didn't know this story, reported missing back on February 1, believed to have been abducted from her home.
Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos tells NBC News it's because Google initially told investigators that this surveillance image they retrieved from Nancy's Nest camera of a man at her front door was believed to be from that date.
Yeah, so that's why they're asking apparently neighbors for door camera video to see if they have anything that might match that video that we've all seen of that masked individual outside Nancy Guthrie's home.
But Nanos says Google later took that back, telling them they could not definitively peg the photo to that day. Neither the FBI nor Google have commented on this timeline. We hope people search their memories, especially around the key timelines of January 31st and the early morning hours of February 1st, as well as the late evening of January 11th. No detail is too small. It may be the key.
Yeah, the Guthrie family putting out a statement yesterday asking just for any help that people may have. 526, a woman who says she was drugged and raped by Bill Cosby awarded $19 million yesterday by a Southern California jury.
Donna Motzinger says she was raped by Cosby in 1972. She met him at a restaurant in Sausalito where she was a waitress. He invited her to a comedy show where she says he spiked her wine and raped her. Cosby's attorney says he doesn't remember the encounter, but if it happened, it was consensual. The jury in Santa Monica deliberated for almost 3 days, coming back with the $19 million civil court judgment. They also say there will be punitive damages, but no figure on that so far. I'm Jason Nathanson.
A group of historic preservation and architectural groups, they're suing President Trump and the Kennedy Center Board of Trustees over these planned renovations that are expected to start this summer.
The lawsuit argues that the renovation project would cause irreparable harm to the Kennedy Center and the public's right to be meaningfully informed and heard before irrevocable actions are taken. Trump was listed in the lawsuit due to his role as chairman of the board. The board of the venue, which Trump picked, voted last week to go forward with a planned 2-year closure and renovation project. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 24th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, warmer than it was yesterday. High 48. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 38. And then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high 54. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 30 clear in Muncie up in Rockland. 33 unclear in Spring Lake over in New Jersey. And it's 32 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 541. We are creeping a whole lot closer to an LIRR strike. The latest round of negotiations between the LIRR and 5 of its unions ended yesterday without an agreement. Less than 2 months until a potential system-wide strike that could disrupt hundreds of thousands of commuters. LIRR is the biggest commuter rail line in the nation. Workers could legally walk off the job as early as May 16th if a deal is not reached. And behind the scenes, officials say they're preparing these contingency plans in the event of a work stoppage. It's complicated, and it would be awful. I mean, we got to hope this doesn't happen. But those plans would include deploying buses to shuttle passengers between LIRR stations and subway stations in Queens, attempting to keep some commuters moving, even if service halts on the railroad. Gerard Bingaman, he's the chairman of the LIRR Commuter Council. He's an MTA board member. He warned that any alternative plan is going to be a headache for riders, which, of course, it will be.
No matter what, it's going to be a tremendous inconvenience to our riders. Right now, I'm trying to get them to have a little bit more of a robust plan than what they had with just like one station out of Suffolk County. Even if they ran a lot of buses, I don't think the parking would be sufficient.
Yeah, so for riders, the uncertainty is already causing a lot of concern. Many commuters say a strike would upend their daily routines, make traveling to work a whole lot more difficult.
It will definitely disrupt my schedule every day.
It will be very difficult.
I'm hoping that the strike will not happen.
Yeah, so the LIRR, busiest commuter rail system in the nation, a shutdown would mark its first strike in more than 30 years. A central issue in the negotiations continued to be work rules governing train engineers, particularly these provisions that grant additional pay for operating different types of trains within the same shift. 543. A Brooklyn teenager's dead after he was shot in the chest yesterday.
It happened at the Sheepshead Bay Houses. That's a NYCHA public housing complex on Avenue X near Brown Street in Sheepshead Bay around 6 p.m. Monday. Police saying only that the 16-year-old boy was shot in the chest and rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Police are looking for a suspect who was wearing a blue hat who fled on foot. In New York, I'm Andrew Whitman.
544, what would you do if all of a sudden you couldn't live in your apartment building anymore? Residents of a Bushwick apartment building say they were forced out of their homes with almost no warning after the Department of Buildings issued a notice to vacate the property. Now, there was real reason to do so. The building at 1416 DeKalb Avenue ordered vacated for fear the thing would collapse. So scaffolding now surrounds the structure, but tenants say they received little warning that they would have to get out, and they weren't able to retrieve a whole lot. So now, not only do they not have a place to live, but they don't have their stuff, like, clothes, things like that.
We had very little time to grab the items that we could, and since then, we haven't been given as much communication regarding what to do next.
It makes a difference to me because I was basically left with one bag of dirty laundry and 3 animals in the street.
And now you got to find a place to live. Several neighbors say they were aware that one side of the building had been deteriorating for years. Videos shared by those tenants show collapsing ceilings, crumbling walls, extensive water damage. No good owner now has to fix all this, but the people who've been pushed out say, not only do I have to find a place to live, I don't know how long it's going to take till I can move back home, and when am I going to be able to get back into the building just to get my stuff?
Should we rent a room? Should we rent a sublet for 3 months? Should we, just sign a lease for a year? They promise they will allow us to pick our things after half of the house has been already demolished. I think it's a joke.
Yeah, so they say the Red Cross has helped out, but the Red Cross can only do so much. 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Eller.
Thank you, Noah Layton. Start here on the ice at the Garden. Rangers fell 2-1 to the Ottawa Senators. They had just 9 shots on goal, matching a franchise worst and the fewest in a game by any NHL team since 2003. They lost for a 25th time in 34 home games this season. One bright spot, Mika Zibanejad skated in his 1,000th regular season game, his 719th with the Rangers after playing his first 281 with Ottawa. Ford was honored in a pregame ceremony. It was very nice. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit the Maple Leafs in Toronto tomorrow night. On the ice tonight, Islanders back in action at 7 p.m. in Elmont. They'll welcome in the Chicago Blackhawks. And at 8 p.m., the Devils. They're out in Dallas against the Stars. Head to the Hardwood in Portland, where the Nets lost handedly to the Trailblazers, as they do every night. The final score 134-99. They've lost 8 straight, 18 of their last 20. They're a game behind Indiana and a half game behind Washington for the best draft lottery odds. You should just lose out. You get that, you know?
Yeah, but no professional player is going to lose on purpose.
Well, you say that, but, you know, I mean, all this load management and stuff like that. I mean, there are ways you can, you know, sort of hide a tanking job. Or
have they ever done that before?
The Nets?
No, like anybody, where they get the players on board to lose games on purpose.
I mean, it's
to
all
get a higher draft.
Listen, it's all speculation, but there's definitely been some suspicion in the past of NBA teams intentionally tanking.
So telling their players, because they're not wired. These guys are pros. They're not wired to lose a game.
No, they're not. But you know, I mean, in years past, you've seen star players, you know, sit out a quarter of the season. You know, guys like Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James.
Well, that's true.
So, you know, I mean,
it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Let's see if he's not going to be able to see very well, Cotton, and that's the issue there. So, Terrence Mann, Noah Clowney did not play for the Nets. Also, Michael Porter Jr. He's been out for a while, missed his 7th straight game. Up next for Brooklyn, they'll be at Golden State to face the Warriors tomorrow. Knicks back at it tonight at home at the Garden. They'll welcome in the New Orleans Pelicans at 7:30. That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick, 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. We're getting word there's going to be a memorial up in Westchester for Sheridan Gorman. She was the Loyola University student. That's in Chicago, who's from Westchester, who was killed by an illegal immigrant last week, shot in the head. President Trump, he was talking about this yesterday, saying that Jose Medina, who came here from Venezuela, came during the President Biden's time in office.
This person came in through the open door policy of Joe Biden, and we have others. We're taking them out by the tens of thousands. We're doing a great job, but it's a shame. They've hurt our country.
Medina, who is a Venezuelan immigrant charged with murder after 18-year-old Gorman was shot in the head, killed last Thursday near the pier at Toby Prince Beach. That's right near the Loyola campus. The president says the incident shows there's a need for ramped-up immigration efforts across the country. 5:51 over to New Jersey, where the governor there, Mikey Sherrill, fighting to keep federal money flowing for the Gateway Rail Tunnel project that connects northern New Jersey and Manhattan. At a project board meeting yesterday, governor said the state will be back in court later in April to seek a ruling that bans the feds from withholding funds for this project ever again, which they've already done a few times.
Funding for the biggest, most urgent infrastructure project in the nation cannot be threatened every time Donald Trump decides to break the law.
The Trump administration withheld funds earlier in the year, prompting a court battle and construction to temporarily stop. Now that construction, thankfully, is restarted.
This project needs certainty. It needs a reliable funding partner. It needs the Department of Transportation to pay what it owes on time.
Feds committed $16 billion to the rail tunnel project to be paid out each month. Sherrill says that the state will be back in court April 16th to seek a ruling that would ban the feds from withholding funds ever again. 5:52, a 20-year-old man accused of getting caught coming back for more after getting away with stealing $69,000 from an Atlantic County man.
Police say Gurpreet Singh of Queens faked being a Federal Trade Commission agent by flashing a badge to the 55-year-old Mays Landing man and demanded the guy pay $63,000 in cash on top of $6,000 worth of Lululemon gift cards. The man apparently got suspicious enough to call the cops because detectives say they were investigating when the 20-year-old Singh contacted the victim again about paying $63,000 more. Well, police officers were waiting Tuesday and greeted Singh with handcuffs when he showed up to the victim's home. Theft and impersonation charges filed. I'm Levon Putney.
WABC News Time 5:52. Remember last week, Mayor Mamdani had a sit-down with Archbishop Ronald Hicks right ahead of the St. Patrick's Day parade. Apparently, to hash out some issues they had. Of course, the mayor had skipped the Archbishop's moment when he was installed as Archbishop. He skipped that ceremony, and for sure there were a lot of Catholic New Yorkers who were upset at him for doing that. So they had to sit down before the St. Patrick's Day parade, and we were told that conversation went well, but we're actually now hearing from the Archbishop about exactly what took place. He spoke to Channel 11, and he said, they agreed to not agree on a lot of things.
He came over and met with me, and it was just an opportunity for us to say, we're going to disagree on certain issues, what he holds in politics and what the Catholic Church holds. There's going to be things that, of course, we disagree on. But we also agreed that there are some things that we can agree on for the common good and try to have a unified voice for it and work for that common good. So it was a good meeting with him just to initially start, and then we got to celebrate together with everyone else in that St. Patrick's Day. And again, it's something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, he sounds like he's holding back a little bit, right? Following the meeting, the mayor did attend Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral last week, shook hands in a public picture with the Archbishop, signaling a reconciliation after that earlier scrutiny. The Trump administration turning to a new tactic to stop development of those wind farms off the East Coast, using taxpayer money to buy off the energy company.
The Trump administration ordered construction on 5 offshore wind farms to stop last year, but that was overruled by the courts. So Monday, the Interior Department announced it would pay French company Total Energies $928 million to forfeit its leases for 2 wind farms off the New York and North Carolina coasts. That's what the leases cost Total Energies. The move away from wind comes as the war with Iran has spiked energy prices. New York Governor Kathy Hochul called the move, quote, an outrageous abuse of taxpayer dollars. In New York, I'm Andrew Whitman.
Going to be a lot of happy Staten Islanders when they hear this. The bars about to reopen on the Staten Island Ferry.
You'll be able to enjoy an adult beverage on the Staten Island Ferry again soon if you're of age. New York City officials say sales of beer, hard seltzers, and canned cocktails will be sold on board starting this Friday for the first time since 2019. The Staten Island Ferry is the busiest service of its kind in the nation, transporting about 45,000 passengers most weekdays. In New York, I'm Jennifer Bolsoni.
One with this story, a New Jersey family desperately searching to find a missing dog belonging to their loved one who happened to die on vacation. So this 2-year-old dog, his name is Major. He was being cared for by a pet sitter, but the family doesn't know who he is. So the cockapoo was a birthday gift from this guy, Javon, who had gone on vacation overseas, and he died while on vacation overseas. So he comes back home, and his 9-year-old daughter, of course, devastated, and she wants her dog Major to cuddle with, and they can't figure out who the pet sitter is. So now they're coming to the public saying, hey, do you have Javon, this beautiful cockapoo?
That's her dog. You know, he got her that dog, and while she's asking for her father, she's also asking for Major. She's supposed to be picked up on Friday, March 20th. That was the time Javon was scheduled to return back from his time abroad.
Yeah, so the 40-year-old just died suddenly while on vacation abroad, and he was the only one who knew who the dog was sitting with. But the dog sitter has to know that he has a dog that nobody's come to pick up. So that's the part that seems just creepy and wrong about this. And how could you not get the dog back knowing that a 9-year-old is looking for
We
it?
were hoping that emergency contact was provided. It seems that's would be protocol for someone that is a professional sitter. So we are wondering if you may have left Major with someone that's, fresh, new. I think that's going to really help, with the closure of her loss. So I really hope that we can find him as soon as possible so you can provide that to her.
So if you're a dog sitter and you know who you are and you have Major, I mean, come on, give her back.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?